Hello, welcome everyone. If you are here with me live, we are working on this project today. If you're watching on the replay, you've already seen what this looks like by the thumbnail, because I always update the thumbnail when I'm done with these paintings. So, just trying to adjust the light. There we go. Okay, so today I don't really have a reference. I knew I wanted to paint a sailboat, and this is what I came up with, just from the imagination. And I have made this available. There's a link in the description below. If you are a patron or a channel member, you will have access to the sketch. It's going to be, there's a post on Patreon. All members have access. Also here on YouTube in the chat, if you're a channel member, I've posted it there as well, so that you can get it and download and paint along. But for those of you who don't have it or don't want to purchase, because you can also purchase this over on Patreon if you don't want to become a member. Okay, so we're going to go through the steps today. I'm going to transfer this and talk about a little bit of what I'm changing up here and why. And then I'm going to be painting on my block of Meeden watercolor paper. This one is a 10.2 by 7 inch. It is cold pressed, acid free, 300 GSM. So it's 140 pound paper. And it is a block. And I do have this here. I'm going to elevate my painting at the top when I start. I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment though, because when I do a transfer, I use the Derwent XL. This is a water-soluble graphite. So it is the extra large graphite block. Again, water-soluble graphite. And it is linked below. The color of the one I'm using is Onyx Dark. So I am going to put some on the back of this, and I'll walk you through exactly how I do a transfer today. I figured I don't think this painting is going to take too long, so it was a great time for me to be able to show you the entire process versus having it done, before the stream started. Okay, so I take the graphite block, and on the back of my, now this could either be a sketch that I've done or an image, a reference photo that I've printed out just on regular printer paper. And I'll go on the back. Now, I don't think we're going to be able to see through this too well, but I mean, I can see through it when I hold it up. But our boat is like right about here. So I'm going to want to put down, okay, I'm going to put down some graphite. I'm using the skinny end. You could use the wide end. If I had a lot to cover, then I would use the flat side, the long flat side. I guess they're all flat side. It's a block. All right, so I'm just going to kind of put this out. Here is my, I'm shaking it off because it gets a little dusty. Okay, so I have that. I'm going to bring that all the way down. I don't like a lot of the transfer papers, so I tend to do this for transferring my things that I'm going to paint when I need to transfer an image. All right. So I'm just going to put some of that down, and there we go. That should be fine. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so put this back in its box, because you touch this, it gets very, very messy. Okay, now this is water soluble, like I said. You could actually, with a paintbrush, if you wanted to, dip your paintbrush in water and get graphite off of this and actually paint with it. You could mix some of this in with some watercolor if you wanted to, like on a palette. And you would probably get maybe a little bit of granulation. Now, they have charcoal ones. Those would definitely give you granulation if you mix them with watercolors. I need to order one of those so I can show you guys that. It's really neat to play with with your watercolors. All right, so the next thing that I do when I do a transfer is I take the piece, this is a regular piece of tissue, and I will go like this. I'm just filling in the tooth on the back of this piece of paper. And you see there is some dust here. I'm just going to knock that off in a moment. Right? Because I don't need to put all that dust on top of my watercolor paper. Right? So there we go. That's going to be more than enough to transfer my design. See, it gets pretty messy. I'm going to toss that in the trash. Let me get rid of the dust. All right, and we'll bring our block back in. Now, one of the things when I sketched this out, I wasn't quite sure how my sailboat was going to be, and just making sure there's none of that is on there. Okay. So, and we're going to lay it flat for the transfer. We'll keep it flat. Okay, so I wasn't quite sure how my sailboat was going to be. I knew that, like, I bent my paper. When I set the piece of printer paper on here, I bent the edge, so I knew I was working on the same size. And then I started with sketching my boat. I was playing with the rule of thirds, so of course I wanted my sailboat to be on this third. It could have been right or left, but it's facing this way. I wanted the bow of the boat to bring you into the painting. So I wanted it to be on this side. If I was going to put it on this side, then I probably would have made the bow of the boat facing that way, again, bringing you into the painting. So I started drawing this out, and then I said, you know what? This is ending up where the mooring buoy is. It's pretty much like right on the center of the page, and I don't really care for that. So what I'm going to do is, to start with, the only thing I'm going to trace first is my boat. And if I look at my page here, my piece of watercolor paper, I have my boat about a third of the way up. So I wanted it to hit at that horizon and the vertical line where they would cross for a focal point. Okay, so for here, this is right about even. I know if I have this paper with the bottom of my page, that's going to put my boat right where I want it to, going this way. But I really want to have that boat be more on the third. So I'm looking at my paper. If I stand it up like this, it'll be easier for you guys to see. And I'm going to want it to be, so that mooring is not quite centered. I'm going to want to shift that a little bit more left. That's going to bring the stern of the boat closer to the edge of the paper. I'm fine with that. So I'm going to go right about there. And that was another reason. I knew I was going to want changes. So that was another reason I had said when I posted that I was going to be doing this with you live. I'm going to move my palette out of the way for a moment. And I'll talk about my paints in just a minute. So I'm just going to hold this in place. And I'm going to just trace over some of these lines. Okay, now you can do this in pencil. You can do it in like a colored, like a pen, so that it was a different color. You could do it in a colored pencil so that you knew which lines you had already gone over. I'm just going to hope that, I get it all correct. And there we go. And I don't miss anything. If I do, we'll just deal with it. I'm not worried about this line being perfectly straight. I could have grabbed a ruler if I was. Just getting its location in. This, I'm not going to press this hard. I will probably lift that some of that off with my kneaded eraser in a moment. So while we are transferring, I'm going to, not moving my finger so it stays put. I'm just peeking to make sure everything's transferring well. So while I am doing this, see if I can trace and talk at the same time. I have my Steve Mitchell set from the My Merry Blue. That's still on this palette. And I also have my Daniel Smith colors out, and I have some core So I'm not quite sure. It's a little high, but it's fine. It's all going to work out just fine. Not quite sure yet what colors we're picking. We're just going to kind of go with it and see what happens today. I'm not going to put a line there. Right, because we're going to, just to remind me, I want some spots like that. There's my, kind of like my half circle for my mooring. And this one's a little wonky. There we go. It might transfer, but my fingerprint, like holding this, I don't have a lot of graphite right here where I'm holding, and that will easily lift off with my kneaded eraser. That's one of the reasons I love using the Derwent. This line, I'm just making wiggly, right? It's just going to be kind of a wiggly line. And these I can do very light. It's just my reflection. I'm going to start with that mask, and then guess what? We're just going to get like a squiggly line there. Just pull a squiggly line down. And if you want, you can have like squiggly line, but really you're not going to see these as much in your reflection. So that's fine. I can just put some little, right? This is where the water. We're just going to have some ripples here by our boat. Okay. I don't need any other information there. Now, oh, I did not do, I happened to put a rail at the bow. You can, or not. It's up to you. It's your sailboat. And around that other side. Okay. All right. So there we have our boat. And I need a little bit, I actually need to go a little bit darker with my, a little bit more pressure here. All right. There we go. Okay. So there's my boat. So now when I do my horizon, I do want that to be where it was. Now, if I want my mountains to be the same, I can just come in here, right, and kind of put my little land in the background. You notice I went right through my mast. It's going to break that line. I'm not sure how it's going to break that line. We'll see in a minute. Now, the birds, I'm not going to want the birds right here. I don't know if I'm going to place the birds. I want to see how my sky develops first. So here's my land. Not really thrilled how that kind of is going to intersect right there at the top of the mast. So I'll adjust this part of the land as we go. And then as far as this part here, I don't even need to worry about that line. I would get the ruler out and make a nice straight line, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're just going to put down a piece of masking tape and it will take care of that line for us. So I'm not going to worry about that. Okay. That's all I need for now. Now I do like the birds, but I'm not sure where I'm going to place them yet. So we may come back to that. Okay. Now we're all set. We have our transfer. If anything needs to be lightened up, and there's a little bit of a smudge right there, but not too bad. Okay. All right. There we go. There's a little bit of, I think I might have got some from last time I was working on this block. Okay. So how might I change this? Maybe I'd come through like this and then bring it up. That'll be fine. And remember, see, this pencil's not going to be water soluble. This graphite is water soluble. So it will just kind of disappear. I'm going to lift out that little spot. I like it better coming through like that. Okay. But that is what I love. Look at that. Just a little kneaded eraser and it's completely gone. This method with the kneaded eraser and that block do transfers that they just disappear when you paint them. And if you need to erase something, it comes off cleanly. So that's why I like that. I do have my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, just in case we need any at the end. I don't know. Don't know yet. I don't have plans for using it, but I have it just in case. All right. So again, this is, I'm just going to kind of clean this off so we can start fresh. As always, so that you can paint with whatever supplies you have at home, I will let you know the pigment numbers that I am working with on my little Daniel Smith swatch card. I don't even actually have the names. I just have the pigment numbers written down because I didn't have room, because I'm using that little tiny palette that I used before. It's not my smallest palette. This is my smallest palette. Look at that. This is the tiniest palette I have. It only has 4 colors. I'm gonna age myself here. If you're a girl, do you remember you used to be able to get long time ago, you could get like a lip balm in a little metal tin like this where the lid would slide over. This is actually from split shots for fishing. That's what this actually originally was for. Somebody very dear to me gave this case to me and I was like, it's perfect for a tiny little watercolor palette, because I see everything in terms of watercolor palettes. So yeah, that's my smallest. That's my core, and those are the colors that I choose, if you're wondering, for my tiny palette. I take that with me when I go out sometimes, because this and a travel brush and a little tiny sketchbook, that's all I need. All right. For the sky, I think I'm going to be using some buff titanium, and I'm grabbing my tape. I'm going to take my masking and we're just going to put down that horizon line. I want it to be above the halfway mark. I don't want it to be at the halfway point. Looks good to me. And you could just transfer the line I had on the sketch, and that would be perfectly fine. But this is going to make it easier for me painting this when I do the land. All right. Let's start with our sky. Now, for the sky, I think I'm going to want to play with some colors here. I have no idea. I have no idea how this is going to work. All right, I'm getting a notification. Guys, let me know if you're having any problems viewing this. Because, now it says it's gone now, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully everything is fine. I'm sure you guys will let me know if you're here live. All right, brushes I have available today. I have my 10 round. a 6 round, a 4 long round, and if my 4 long round, if I feel that I need, I mean, let me show you guys why I don't think I will need anything other than this 4 long round. I usually don't grab anything smaller, but if you do, I do have a size 2 rigger here, but take a look at the points on these. This one's not even wet yet. Like if you look at the point here and you look at the point there, there's not a whole lot difference, but this is going to hold a lot more paint for me. So sometimes you'll never see me grab anything other than this. Okay, thank you, Tara. All right, so those are available, and I have a 3/4 wash brush, and you could also, I have a size 6 quill. This is from the Aqua Elite. Why don't we use this today? It's going to put down a lot of water. That sounds like fun. We're going to do this sky wet into wet. I picture some clouds, our water. We are going to want our water to also have some of the same. So, Chris Dolphin Soul says, I love how you think I can put tape down straight too. Well, you know, you can always, if you can't do a straight line, I definitely recommend one of these. Because then you can set it up, there it goes, on the edge of your block, and you can always get a nice straight line that way. So definitely recommend one of those. All right. Now that I have this tape here, I have the line for my land, but I can also play with the water. So when I wet the sky, I can also wet my water, and I can put some of what I'm doing in the sky immediately into my water. So we're going to do that. Let's get this nice and wet up here. Dropped a big old spot of water. I'm just putting this right to where the top of the land is at. You can see how wet that is. I don't think I have one of those listed in the description below, but it's like a T-square. I love that thing. I use that all the time. I use that for so much in the studio. It definitely is well loved. I don't need to worry about where the mast is going to be, because if I paint that like a very dark color, it's going to show up over my sky. So I'm not worried about that. I'm just going to go right to the land. And I don't know if you guys can see it. There, see the puddle? We definitely have some puddling here. I can just tip this back. Let that flow back the other direction. But my paper is getting nice and wet. I want it to be really wet so I can do some wet into wet ideas I have for this sky. And I'm just going to come right here to where my masking tape is. And I'm not going to come right, I'm painting around my boat. Okay. Painting around the mooring. There we go. I love this quill brush. It holds so much water. I have a link in the description for this paper from Meeden, and I have a discount code for you. I don't know what is going to be happening with prices in the near future with everything going on in the world. I'm not going to get into the politics of any of it, but right now, you know, it's something I'm considering stocking up on some in case the prices do go up. Okay, so it just kind of went around my boat. There we go. And I'll probably be wetting this again. I just know that as I do some of the colors in my sky, I'm going to want to kind of correspond and drop them down below. All right, again, just tipping. I see it still had like a pool of water here. You can see how nice and wet this is. Just going to kind of bring that back down. All right. Now, going over to my size 10 round, I want to take, I think I'm going to use some of the indigo. Well, that was NB1. What else could you use? This is in the Steve Mitchell set. I love the color. Let me just show you guys. I had wet it, but it's so pretty. What else could you use if you don't have this? You could use, let's see how, this is a PB27 and PBK11. Nope, this is definitely warmer. I grabbed Soda Light though. See those two? They're so close. They're so close. So we could use Soda Light. Maybe I will. I'll just use Soda Light from Daniel Smith. If you had like a lunar blue, you could use that. You could do some ultramarine and let's see how that works. Ultramarine is this guy right here. Ultramarine. PBK11, which is lunar black or like a Mars black. See how close those are? So you could use that too. Ultramarine, and even ultramarine in like a neutral tint would make similar to the color that I'm going to be using. All right, and I've probably talked too much now showing you that. So just going to make sure that this is still plenty wet. Same with down here. Okay. I'm just going to start by dropping some in at the corner. I'm going to let this kind of thing happen. This is going to become some of the clouds. And I never end up with enough paint on my palette. I don't mind if we have some dark. I want some of this to look stormy. If it's stormy, we wouldn't be out sailing. We'd be tied to our mooring, so. Kind of drop some color in. I'm going to take a little bit of Buff Titanium. It's PW6:1. Oh, mine was dirty. Or I still had blue in my brush. Let me clean that out. That's better. I'm going to drop a little bit in here. Now, this is a little bit more opaque. It might push some of this blue away. I'm going to put a little bit down here, closer to where my horizon is going to be. Just going to warm that up a little bit. dabbing some in near where those clouds are going to be. Let's darken up some areas. Just as a former launch driver who took people to and from their boats, you highly underestimate boat people. Yeah, if you're taking their sailboat out in a storm, I don't want to be a passenger. Just saying. I mean, to each their own, but I don't want to be a passenger. Your sky does not have to look exactly like mine. Here, I thought I was going to have like more light coming from some location, like if I had the sun kind of poking out, but it doesn't seem that it's happened that way. So I don't know. Just wait and see. Wait and see what we get. I think I'm going to bring some ultramarine into this. It also has not escaped me that I said I was going to drop color down here, and I haven't dropped color down there. You know, it's fine. So some ultramarine, just mix that into what I was already using. I'm just going to put some variation. I don't know. I'm not sure how I like it yet or don't like it. I'm not liking the way this is kind of blending. All right. Another thing that you can do, if you're not liking how your sky is turning out, I have a piece of tissue or paper towel here. I'm just going to turn this upside down. I'm going to tilt this, and I'm just going to spray water. I'm going to let it run. And we're going to see what we get. Now you see why the paper towel's there. It ran into my land a little bit because I tipped a little bit too hard, but that's okay. I'm just letting it pull the extra water off by letting the corner touch that paper towel. Okay. Now, I like that. I like that a little bit better than what I had going on there. I'm just going to take a piece of tissue and I'm just going to absorb some of this extra water right there. There we go. All right. I may come back with some more color. I don't know if I want to put any in now or not. Or just kind of leave it soft like that. Just working a little bit more in. dropping in some more pigment. Obviously this is still very wet, so this is going to move around. Remember, it's also going to get lighter. So I can come back and do another layer on that sky if I want to. I didn't put a lot of the bright that I originally had expected to put in, which is why I wet this down here. Look, I'm just going to take some tissue and I'm just going to kind of press just to get some brighter spots in my clouds. You see, I kind of turn. You gotta remember that also is going to lift water off. A little bit of that extra down there. All right, I'm going to leave that as my clouds for now because, again, the sky is not the focal point here. Our sailboat is going to be the focal point. So we're going to let that kind of do its thing. I'm going to come down here and start to paint in some of my water. Remember, I still have this tape here, and that's fine. I'm just going to paint up to it. I'm not going to worry about there being this gap here between what I've painted and my shoreline in the distance. Okay. I'm just checking the chat real quick while I let this do a little bit of drying. Oh, Rosa, the other terror was talking about Rosa Gallery Cobalt Gray, thinking that that would be great for moody skies. I don't know if the Cobalt Gray is in my set or not. I'd have to look. I do have a set of Rosa colors. It's actually right here. Of course, I didn't label what they were, so I'd have to pull my other swatch to find that out or be able to see them on the sides. And they do have the names on the sides. I don't think I have that color in mine. These are the monopigment colors, so probably not. But this is the monopigment set, which is really a lovely set. If you like Rosa, I think I just dropped my painting. I'll forget later. Okay, let's go ahead and paint in some water. We're going to use some of these same colors we already have here from our sky. And we're just going to add some more water, right? Because we're going to want to get our lightest values here. I think some more. My paper's still a little damp, but not enough that it's going to move. Yeah, it's a mix. I wouldn't have it. I'm not worried if I leave some white spaces. In fact, you see I'm holding my brush pretty much like pretty flat to my paper. This is very watered down. I don't start necessarily at the edge. I can just kind of start in the middle. That way when I pull out, I don't end up with too much over there. So I'm not going to be worried going around that mooring. I'm not going to worry if I leave white spots on the page. Bring in some more of the ultramarine. This is where my reflection's at. Again, don't worry about the mast, but I am going to paint around my sail. I could have painted this with my quill brush. Probably would have picked up a lot more paint. Also, you could have painted this in with your wash. That had some of that phthalo blue. I don't want to grab that. It's very, very different to everything else I have in my painting so far. All right, so I have some spots here that are still white on the paper. It's fine. Let's work up some darker values. Now this part of the paper is wet. So again, when I put this down, it's going to dry lighter. Just kind of pulling across. You see how this is much darker. This part of the paper is a bit drier. I can solve that problem. Just give it a little mist. It'll kind of disperse. My paper has a little bit of buckling in it right now. I'm just working with that. That's giving me, see how I'm getting some thicker? I'm getting some thicker marks where my paper's lifted towards me, and a little bit thinner where it kind of moves away and the belly's not hit, the belly of the brush isn't hitting as much. And that's fine. I don't mind that at all because it's just going to help it look like waves. All right. I'm going to give this a quick dry. If anybody has any questions, if you are here during the live stream, drop them in the chat. I will have a look. I'm going to mute this while I'm drying it. I'm going to give this a nice dry because I want to be able to paint in the land. And actually, I don't think it's that wet. You know what? We're just going to go for it. It's damp. And if we get a little bit of fuzzing out, you know what? It's just going to look like maybe there's trees back there in the distance. And I said in the chat before we began, I wasn't painting trees today. And I'm not. However, there could be trees back there on that land. Okay, how about this is PG-17. This is again, I'm going to mix it right in here with what's left on my palette because I want it to be nice and cool and push that away. So I'm just mixing the PG-17 with whatever was on my palette. This is, what color does my Mary Blue call that? I think that's sap green. No, it is Hooker's green for my Mary Blue. It's that PG-17. Okay. I want to get this, I'm bringing in more water. My brush is very wet. Again, I'm not worried about painting over where the mast is. Don't worry if you're a little out of your line gets a little wonky. It's fine. I had a fuzz on my, there we go. Here's where that land kind of, or my sky kind of went down into where the land was. And that's okay. It just looks even cooler over there. All right. So now that this is all wet, now we're going to be painting wet into wet. So we're going to give some variation to our land formations back here. I'm going to take some of the PG-17. Right, that's a little stronger. We'll just drop some in here and there. Let's see what happens if we grab some of that buff titanium that we've been using, that we used in our clouds. Well, let's drop a little bit of that in here too. I'll kind of warm it up a little bit. A little bit of that blue. The PG-17. So that was, my blue was Soda Light. I'm gonna mix those two together. Let's get some shadow colors in here. Right, especially near the edge. I want to kind of bring you into the painting. Just more of that PG-17. With this being very wet, all of these colors are going to blend. They will keep moving. My board is elevated, so the darker value, it's going to sink and a lot of, it'll run down. So we'll have darker down here at the bottom. We're also going to get some texture in this. Just using the very tip of my brush here. I guess it's easy to get carried away. A little bit more of that sky color in there. If you saw that, I just tapped my brush on my tissue and that pulled out some of that paint and water. And I can just move a little bit of this around without flooding it with water, to just kind of soften up some of those transitions. All right, just gonna leave it alone. Again, it's the background. Okay. Now let's go ahead and give this dry, and then we will take the tape off and we will put in the colors for our boat. And then we'll kind of finish off the final layers on our water. All right, hit this with the dryer. I'm loving the granulation that's happening in here and in the sky. I love granulating watercolors. What do you think? Do you like them when you paint landscapes? Or do you prefer colors that don't granulate? Let me know. Okay, I think that is good enough. We've made quite a bit of progress. Let's go ahead and I can find the edge of my tape. There it is. To give that appeal. Look at that horizon line. Love it. I love it. Okay. I'm loving the colors in here. The blues and the greens. Let me bring that up so you can see it. Look at the granulation. I am seeing stuff on, Tara asked me if it was me or her. She was getting a little bit of buffering. I'm seeing some information on YouTube side. I know it's not me personally, because I definitely have plenty of I'm pushing plenty of, like, my speed can handle what I'm doing. I just don't know why. I think it's on YouTube side. Hopefully everything will be just fine. It will stop doing that. So I don't know, but I'm going to keep carrying on, and hopefully for those of you who are watching on the replay, it's not doing that at all. Okay, so now I left this, this wherever the tape was, and I painted up to it. Now we're going to take that further. I wanted this to be lighter. See, I have this like light here in my sky. I wanted to have some of that light here, so I preserved the white of the paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wet, and I'm going to use my 3/4 inch flat brush, and I'm going to go ahead and wet that space. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take some really light blue, and we're going to put some of that in here so that it looks like it's lighter back there. So I'm just going to wet, and I don't need to touch where the two meet. It's okay if I have a little bit of white space back there. Just need to get close. Again, right across the mast of that boat. And if I wet down into this area, that's fine. I'm not putting a ton of water this time, because the pigments that I used, they can lift. Usually those granulating pigments can lift, and I don't want to push a big bloom into this either. So you're going to see me just kind of gently pull down, and let's see if we can't get the light there. It's not soaked. I don't have a pool or a puddle this time when I put the water down. It's damp. It is going to quickly lose its sheen, and that's going to become, looking over here, this is where we can kind of, the light's picking it up, but it's already starting to dull out, if you guys can even see that at all. So that's what we're doing. I'm going to use my wash brush. Hey, Shanna, Caution Artist at Play, popping in to say hello. How are you doing today? We need to go painting soon. We need to go painting so soon. Okay. For those who don't know, Caution Artist at Play, and a group of 4 of us that we all go out. We're all up here in Maine, and we all go out and paint together. And it is almost that season. All right, so I just took some of my Sodalite, and I am just really watering that down. I want it to be a very, very light version. Again, this is damp. So, just to make sure, because I was talking, I'm just going to grab a little bit of this, and I'm going to just hold this kind of on its side. I want this thin, and this really gives us a nice flat, that point. It comes to a nice point. So we're just going to kind of use that on its side. And we're going to just come in, and we're just going to touch through. We're going to put some of this color back here. It's going to be light. Nice thin, right? The further away you are, those waves get closer together, or the ripples in the water. I can even take this brush and kind of go over that edge where my tape was, kind of break up that line. But it's going to be fine if it's still there. By the time we're done, you won't even realize that it was like that. And again, I'm not worried if I don't make contact up against where that land is. It is fine. I'm going to get this. I want to pull the green off my palette. Actually, I take a little bit of that blue, kind of blue-green color. Let's use a little bit of that. It was really wet. That's why you see it's kind of really moving. Just pulling in a little bit of the color that from that land into the water. Yeah, me too. I need to get it on my. We need to like get a date on our calendar. I know we're going to be going to the botanical gardens again this year. We all shared stuff that we painted last year when we did that. It's an event that happens at the main botanical gardens every year. That's the plein air days. We did it last year, and we're talking about doing it again this year. So much fun. Just bringing some of that blue green up into here. Again, that got a little wet, a little too wet, but what do I always say? It's fine. It's fine. It really is. You see, and you can't even see that line that we had now from before where the tape was. So you definitely don't have to worry about that. Okay. I'm going to move back to my size 10 round. I'm going to clean this spot off so that I can bring in more of that soda light. Okay. While this is still kind of damp up here, I'm going to bring in a little bit. Now down here, the paper's not wet. All I have to do is give it a little bit of a spritz with my mister. And whatever I pull through, we'll get some nice soft blending out of that. And kind of carry that through. All my strokes are going to stay horizontal. As we add in the darker values to where it really starts to look wet and like water. Don't be afraid to kind of skip around and leave spaces. I need that to dry a little bit more. I want to get some darker values in there, but it's still too light, so it's just kind of blending out. I kind of touched my boat right there a little bit too much. Just a clean, damp brush. I'm just going to lift that right off. There we go. It never happened. Okay. We'll work on our water some more in just a few minutes. Let's go ahead and paint in, start painting our sailboat. We got to decide what color do we want our sailboat. I think I'm going to use some of the buff titanium because I've already used it elsewhere in the painting. So why not? There we go. I have my size 6 round right now. I'm just going to start putting in some color here. The sun is out here, but it's only like 46 degrees. I see that we're talking about the weather. Betsy Paints says, the granulation is just gorgeous. I love how the granulating colors just make the hills in the distance. We're gonna all right. Trying to decide. I'm going to bring some of this color down here into my water, of course, because we will have some of that reflecting. I can clean up all my edges around the boat when I come back and do the next layer of water. So I'm not too worried about that. Thinking maybe we want a stripe on our boat, but I think I'm going to go with a blue stripe. I was thinking red, but it's just going to stand out so much, and it's not really what I'm going for. So I think we're going to use a blue, and I think we're going to use we've used ultramarine in the painting. So I think if I use ultramarine, right, that's going to be like such a bright color. We'll tone it down just a touch with some soda light. So it's going to kind of neutralize it a little bit, but still be very cohesive for what's in our painting already. So we're going to use that. Of course, your painting, you can put a stripe on it, whatever color you want to. You know, you can paint the sail. I have the sail like it's wrapped right now. You can paint that however you want to. But I'm making sure that the color is going to be different, very different from the water. So I do want it more ultramarine than what the water is. If I'm going to paint this part. I mean, you could just make your sail, you could just do this in black, like it was silhouette. That would work too. So that is entirely up to you. I need to dry this first because otherwise if I paint the stripe on here, it's just going to bleed right into it. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick try. Okay. Hopefully that should be enough. All right, let's see if we can do this with the size 6 round. And I'm just going to freehand it. Just going to kind of follow the edge. Follow the line that I have up here. If you needed to sketch that in first, you absolutely could. There we go. So of course, if I have it there, I'm going to want it in my reflection. Easy way to do that is flip it over. In the line drawing that I did, I also, we can still see it here, I have that shape sketched out loosely in the water. So I'm just going to do the same thing, only in reverse. I have it here. And this time, I really don't need to be perfect with it, right? Because this is the reflection. It's going to be broken up. Very loosely put some of those lines in there. Okay. Let's take some neutral tint. I'm just going to put it right here. Grabbing my size 4 long round. You can use whatever brush you would like. I'm just tapping it. I have my little sponge. He's still up here. So if you see me kind of doing this there, you can, it's now in view. I'm just kind of getting a little of the extra water out because I don't want to flood water into this space. I'm going to put in got a little bigger than I wanted, but it's fine. Our little sailboat has a cabin on it here. Put some windows on. You know, I'm not being perfect with this. I'm just kind of laying them in there. And of course, if they're there, we have some here. But down here, we're just adding some little squiggles because our water's moving. It doesn't have to be perfect. Grabbing some more of that neutral tint, much stronger. Just tapping it on my tissue first because I want to make sure I don't have too much. Right at our bow, I put some lines, a rail up here. So I'm going to just kind of paint that in. It's not all still exactly the way I wanted it to be in the beginning. Like I can't see all the lines, but you know what? I'm just guesstimating about where it was. And if that came around there, I turn that just slightly again. Just a quick tap on my tissue to make sure I don't have too much paint on my brush. Just kind of going in between, like, hey, this is on the other side. Now, we need to get some shadows in here. Give some more dimension to this boat. I'm taking my Titan Buff or Buff Titanium. It's PW6:1. It's that off-white color. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of, let's see. Let's go with like a PBR7, like an umber. I just want a little bit shadow. I probably could have used the neutral tint, but just kind of keeping it warm. Going in along the back side. And I'm going to kind of go in between these. I could have done this first. Would have made sense. Bring that darker down here where it meets the water. Just drying off my brush, and I'm just going to kind of blend that right up to, so I don't have a hard line. Let's get that a little darker. Don't be afraid to get some darks in there. Now this is going to be like wet into wet. So if I just go along the bottom, it'll blend up nicely towards the top. You see how much that traveled up? Just again, I'm just kind of blending it out up to my line. I need to bring that into the water as well. All right. For the rails, these don't have to be perfect. I made that too wet. I wanted just a little bit of water. I got a lot more water. It's all right. I just don't want my brush to be wet. So again, we just tap that before we use it. See, just some little like little squiggly marks. It's not going to be perfect. While I have the neutral tint on my brush, I'm going to come right here where the boat meets the water and just drag a little bit of that through. This boat is still damp. It's okay if that travels a little bit. Again, my brush was not really wet. I wasn't flooding this with a lot of pigment or water. I'm going to bring this over here too, like where that buoy is. Might define that top edge a little bit more. I don't mind the lighter stripe. Okay. Let's do our line. Tie us off our mooring. And we're going to want to go squiggly. Okay. When it comes to doing these lines, I'll probably use my ruler to help me get those straight. So we'll do that. But I want to finish my water first. I'm going to bring in, I think I do want to do I thought about having this just canvas color, which means I would paint it with this. But I think I'm going to go ahead and make it blue. We'll see. We'll see how that works. Is it a mistake? I don't know. We haven't done it yet. Again, you could have done your entire boat like a silhouette if you wanted to, especially if you had a brighter sky. Like if this was a sunset, you could absolutely paint your boat as a silhouette and just do it in black. In which case you wouldn't have to worry about all these details. Okay, see, it's muted, that ultramarine, but it's more muted. It's going to be a different color than our water, so it certainly stands out. We know it's part of the boat. I think I like that. I just think it goes with our blue stripe, which I'm just give a little bit more to. Okay. We could even add little markings like its hull number. We could do that. I don't know that I'm going to worry about that. But where we see this much of the boat, we would probably see that there are numbers on there. And usually a hull number goes right about here. Okay, let's go back to our water. This actually, our buoy, our little mooring, let's give it a blue stripe too. Let it match our boat. I'm going to kind of have it going at an angle. And I'm doing it at an angle so that it is different than the water. It's going to stand out from the water. So again, we need to, right? I'm just going to put a little bit of this same color into the water. It's our reflection. Maybe we can line it. Kind of help define. This is a mooring. There we go. Let's bring our water. All right. That's enough of that little brush. Okay, let's do some finishing touches on our water, and then we're going to put in our mast, and we're done. All right. I'm going back again for my Sodalite. I have this neutral tint here, and I'm going to end up just working that into it. The Boo Peep, I love it. I love it. Boo Peep has named our vessel the SS Pigment. All right, as we come to our foreground, let's start to get I never have enough paint. There we go. So again, this is just the Sodalite. Look how dark that looks. Don't worry if you do a little bit of dry brushing and it kind of skips along. That's fine. It's just going to look like a little bit of sparkle in your water. And I'm going right into that neutral tint. And I'm going to grab my bigger brush. It's just not big enough for what I want. I got my size 10 round again. I certainly want to darken up my water. I want that contrast in my foreground. This is too light. I want my light back there. I want it dark here. So we're going to darken this up. And again, it's going to play with the same colors we have in our sky. Same paint that's been on the palette. Because I keep going into my water, I am thinning this down. But I'm doing that because I'm going to pull this back here. So I want to darken this water. So I'm glazing it over. See how I'm getting some of that dry brushing going on? It's going to look like sparkle in your water. It is okay. There's definitely a time and a place. And this is where it will help you. A time and a place for dry brushing. Don't be afraid to pull some over and through where your boat is. All right. I am going to grab that smaller brush again, just because I want to get details. I want to get around this boat. First, I'm just going to kind of dampen this area. Just because I'm going to want it to blend. Because behind the boat, it's softer, right? This way from the boat, we can get more defined. I'm not liking this line right here, but we're going to fix that. Grabbing that same color. My boat is dry, so I can come right along the edge of the boat. And anywhere on the bottom of that, it's going to be a defined line. And because I dampened up around it, it'll be a softer line. And it'll kind of fade out. There we go. Kind of define that edge a little bit more. If we darken up around that mooring, it's going to help that stand out. I'm not worried if my line gets a little lost. I can always come in and darken that up. There we go. All right, now let's pull. Using just the tip of my brush, I'm kind of pulling through some ripples right over my reflection. Especially back here. It's really light here. We want to pull some color through. keep going into that soda light. For a second, I needed to paint louder. I just realized I wasn't talking. All right, going back to a bigger brush now. The brush was a little dry. Where's my... I'm gonna take my quill brush and I'm just going to come over this area again, just with some clean water. If I don't do too many strokes, I'm not going to disturb what has already dried. I'm going to give myself a wet surface to let this kind of blend into. There we go. Just playing. Again, I'm looking up at my monitor. I always say, turn on the camera on your phone if you're unsure. And look at your painting through the screen of your phone, right, with your camera on it. And just see, do you like the way it's looking? Do you feel like you need to darken something up? Maybe you're not liking the way, the ripples are looking. I'm not worried about this water being too detailed because I want this to be my focal point. But I do want the contrast, right? I want this water to be darker. And this is my chance. Like if there was a line like here that I didn't like, I can always come through and adjust it. I hope you guys are enjoying this one. If you are, do hit that thumbs up button. Give the video a like. It definitely helps. Just bringing a little bit of this darker value a little bit further up. I think I made that a little bit too dark there. I'm just going to kind of lift a little bit of that out. And I want to make sure I don't leave a pool of water because I don't want to push a bloom. I don't want to make, back run there. There we go. And it may happen. It's a little bit wet there, so just drying my brush. kind of pulling through that area so that my brush will absorb any extra water. It's a bit wet in comparison to like surrounding areas. Okay, I think I should be doing this with a flat tissue. My tissue is flat when I press. It's just going to give me lines versus like clouds. So by taking like a flat piece like this that you pinch, you can go in and lift up if you need to. I just wasn't liking how dark it was here. Again, I want to bring the focal point here. And I know I've just messed with it too much. But that can happen. Okay, I'm just going to leave it alone. Leave it alone. I know, I'm still touching it, as I say. Just going to leave it alone. All right, but I am leaving it big. So you see, we do have more lines, more details here. And then as we get back, like we brought some of that land color into our water for like the reflections. It doesn't have to be perfect. They're much further away. Leaving this line here, we definitely give ourselves a very defined horizon, but it really lengthens that and like pushes that deeper into our painting. So I think I just want to put a little bit more dark here. Let's put the mask in and call it done. If you enjoy videos where you can paint along, ask questions while you're painting, drop in, chat with other artists, I hope you'll consider subscribing if you're not already. And join us here. Normally we're live almost every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you haven't yet subscribed, I hope you'll consider doing so. All right, so now the question is, and if you are watching live, you can help me decide. Do we need birds flying around over here or not? I've been enjoying putting birds in some of my more recent landscapes. And I did put them in the sketch. All right, I think I'm going to leave that alone. I think I have a lot more contrast now coming closer. I just looked up at my monitor and I said, you know what? Maybe that's a little too bright right there. a little bit more color here. Again, that's where the camera, that feature, turning on your camera on your phone and having a look, can really come into play and help you out. Okay. I'm liking that a lot. Let's get our mast of our sailboat in. Okay, so I mentioned that I wish I had one of my small rulers. I don't, but we can do this with, I'm actually grabbing some of my Lunar Black, which is PBK 11. It fell asleep on my palette. I had to wake it up. Okay. Again, if I just tap my brush to my tissue, I'm going to make sure that I don't start and put down too much. Let's just see. Don't put your hand on your wet painting. I'm just going to darken up my line. And if you're not comfortable doing this with a paintbrush, you could always do this part here like with a fine liner. And I'm getting kind of like wiggly with that line when I go towards the reflection. All right, so our mast. I love the T-square because I can just hook it at the top. And I know it's going to be straight. I can just come on in. Paint down. My paint and my brush were both drying out. Because I went into my water, again, I'm going to want to tap. I'm tapping my tissue on the side over there. All right, let's have a look. All right, there's the mast of our boat. Now, when we paint the reflection of the mast of our boat, that is really, really easy. Don't overthink this. Don't stress. It's here. I start, right? Let's just get a little bit of a straight line started. Remember, this is a reflection, right? It's wonky. Let it be wonky. Water's moving. You're putting movement into your painting with that. Okay. And this is a little thin. I'm just going to come back and freehand. Go back up alongside this. Now, if it was like a really bright sunlit day, maybe I would have some white. This mast is getting thick. Good enough. I just didn't want it thicker at the top than it was at the bottom. That wouldn't make sense. I keep trying to touch that bottom part where it's still wet. Okay. And how about our rigging? Again, I wish I had a small, I don't know what I did with my small rulers, but you know what else you can use? I'm going to risk it all. Fold that. I say risk it all because I have the graphite on the back side of this. This is my sketch. I still have my birds here. Right. All right. So I can just take a piece of paper if I want to and place it. I want these to flow. I don't want these to be as dark, so it's okay if I have more water. in this mix of paint. It's not okay if I have too much water in my brush. So again, I still want to tap that first. And I'm just going to give a nice thin line up. Oh, there it is. And same here. I want it to be like here. She's a little wonky, but it's okay. I'm just going to come along the bottom side of this. And just sort of bring that out. Like that. Oh, you certainly could, Other Tara said, maybe, maybe like a little buoy, a pop of color. You could put like a buoy hanging off the side, like a bumper if it was pulling up to, say, a pier. You could have made your mooring have a red stripe. You could have put a red stripe on your boat. Whatever you want to do, this is your boat. You paint your boat with whatever colors you would like. I'm just going to put some darks into some of these our little windows here. Just darkening them up. So again, I will do a little bit more in the reflection. But I didn't worry about being exact with those. Our buff titanium is very opaque. If we grab some of this, almost full strength, we can actually, if we want to bump up some of the reflection that's in the water, you can bring a little bit more of this into it. Sort of here and there. Again, I've got my stripe there. Started to paint over just a little bit, but that was this color. I need to bring any of that back. See where I have my mooring coming up to? Like I didn't put, there would be more this brighter color. Kind of be up here where that line attaches. It's a bit brighter. So we can brighten that up just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Buoy, yes. The other chair says, is that how buoy is pronounced in the US? It sounds odd, sorry. It's boy here. Yes, we say buoy. I love it. I love how things sound different. And then, of course, some could be, accent to the general area that I live in. But yeah, I've always heard it and pronounced it as buoy. Just defining the mooring. right, right. Julian says, if I heard it that way, I'd wonder why you'd want to hang a buoy off the side of a boat. Yes, we say buoy. Some final little touches there. Okay, birds or no birds? I think maybe she could use a little something extra. Let's go ahead and put some birds. So I have my paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my birds out real quick, just because I don't want to put the graphite all over everything. So I'm just going to real quick cut that little section out. Okay, so here are my birds. Now I could draw them in freehand. That would be fine too. But I'm thinking compositionally, right? I'm thinking like if I want to add another focal point, I would put them right about here. Let's see. And you could just draw them in. You just freehand them. I kind of like the way that this one turned out, so I'm going to go ahead. And I don't know if I'm pressing hard enough to get that to transfer. I can always remove these. That's the thing, right? I love about... Yeah, see, that didn't even hardly show up. I didn't press hard enough. Yeah, if she's on there, I can't see it. Let me press a little harder. This is the one that I want to show up. I can kind of see it now. All right, I'm just going with it. I'm going to take my neutral tint right here on this, where I had my lunar black. There's one in the distance. I see it. I was like, where did the other one go? There's another one, and then this guy is a little closer. I'm losing, so I need to look at my sketch. And it helps me see the lines I had painted, or the lines I had drawn. And that bird's a lot closer to us. It's not making a lot of sense to me, but he's there. Right? I could even add, now I think he's pulling attention away. So there you go. Keep the bird. Don't use the bird. Just have some small birds. Is he too big? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that detracts from our sailboat. I don't like it. What do you do if you don't like something? Well, let's see if we can make this work. Let's see if we can. I'm just taking a little bit of water on my brush. My brush is not soaked. I don't want to flood my paper. And I'm just going to lift a lot of this color out. And we're going to try to make it so he just wasn't there. And I'm just going to blend that's wet around in my sky. Let's take a little bit. We know we used this color in our sky. I'm just going to soften the edge that I just put in there. Right. Like he never happened. I mean, I can still see him. I know he's there. But I don't like I definitely don't care for how it was too big and it was too dark. These little guys, great. He was a bit too dark. And I still have a little bit of a spot there, which is not a big deal. I can put a smaller bird there. And that will also help kind of make it all disappear. I'm going to have to dry this area first. And then we'll put a little bird and I'll cover up the little part that I can still see. Okay, let's see here. Trying to decide how I want to put him in there. I still see where like the original wings were, but will somebody in the future that didn't know what happened? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just adding a little bit more. This was more of the ultramarine blue with just a little bit of that mixture, just to kind of adjust this section of the sky so that in the future, maybe even I will forget that that's what happened. Okay. And of course, the more we mess with it, the more we are definitely going to remember. And the more it's going to stand out. I'm just trying to soften some edges. You're not touching my little bird that I just painted in there. All right. My brain's like, make it a little bit more random. And then that other little voice goes, leave it alone and stop messing with it. It's fine now. What do you guys think? It's fine now? I think it's fine now. Just kind of soften up that edge. It's fine. Fine. Perfectly fine. Like maybe bring dark around over here. See, you can do this all day long. You're just going to keep on. Like it's kind of darker here. Just kind of connect those two areas. Right? Just a little bit. All right. I think I'm happier with that. Okay. Have a great rest of your day, D-Lynn. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Birds, no birds, you let me know in the comments. Was that a mistake? Or yes, the addition of the birds, smaller birds, work for you. Now the question of where to sign it. I think I might sign it here. I don't want to sign it here because, again, I don't want to pull attention away from this area. So sometimes I think it's good to sign near the what's happening. And then other times it's like if I can just kind of hide it and tuck it in. Like if there was grass or something in this foreground, I would kind of hide it into the grass away from maybe my focal point. But I think for today, we're just going to sign over here. There we go. All right. Kind of signed right where there was a darker spot in the water. Let's have a nice closer look at this one. What do you guys think? Did you paint along? If you did, I hope that you will share it on social media and tag me. On Instagram, I am at Clark_Fine_Art, but everywhere else, I am at ClarkFineArt. I would love to see what you have created. There we go. There is our little sailboat. Tara and Joseph, both our moderators, both have channels here on YouTube. If you haven't already, I hope you will check them out. Links are in the description. In the description below, you'll also find links for all the supplies I used today. So until next time, my friends, keep creating, and I will see you in a video real soon. Next week, we are painting our May calendar page. So I hope you will join me for that. Until next time, everybody, bye-bye.